Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another session on how to do business, and this time it will be in Germany. And we have Peter Jung. Guten Morgen.
Good morning.
Good morning. And you are in Berlin, isn't it?
I am in Berlin, yes, in the heart of Berlin.
Okay, so everybody knows the practicalities. Now he's going to do his presentation. And then afterwards, we are going to have a question and answer, and you can leave your questions in the chat, and I'm going to read them for him. And please turn off your cameras and your microphone. Okay, so now go ahead.
Okay, great. So I will be sharing my presentation here. And you can tell me once you can see it. I think as anyone
can see it.
Perfect. As anyone who has traveled to Germany before, you might know that they are lagging a little bit behind when it comes to internet connection and the especially the fiber connections in Germany. That's one of the issues also we're going to talk about a little bit today, about the digitization in Germany. So if anything with the presentation seems a bit slow, just shout out and I will try to either go back a little bit or go a little bit slower. So today we're going to talk about Germany and doing business in Germany. About myself also, my name is Peter Jung. I live here in Berlin, in the heart of Berlin. As you can see right now behind me, it's not the nice premise of our office at Business Sweden, but rather the nice little kitchen in my home. Since COVID, I think a lot of you now know how it is to work from home. Same goes for us here in Berlin. As I said, I've been working for 9 years now at Business Sweden. I'm a project manager focusing on mainly healthcare, life sciences, information communications technologies. And also, I think for the past 6 or 5 years, been working a lot within the startup community. Of course, many of you know, Berlin is a huge hub for the startup scene. A little bit also about, maybe before we continue to the agenda and to the information about Germany, about Business Sweden in Berlin. We're also located in the city center. For anyone who has been in Berlin before, it's right by Friedrichstraße, which is maybe 5-minute walk from Brandenburger Tor. And we're approximately 10 people. And part of our team is also the Benelux office, meaning that we are called the Central Western European Hub with the Benelux team at Germany and Switzerland. So today we're going to look at a little bit macro information about Germany. That's what we call here about Germany. Then we have, of course, the COVID impact currently. And then also going to have a look at the business climate in Germany, doing business in Germany, and then also a little bit, very brief about Business Sweden once again at the end, and also going to follow up with some Q&As once we round up. I'm now going to the first page on Germany, about Germany. I hope you all can see it now. I think there's a 10 to 15 second lag, but starting out a little bit broad about Germany and a little bit more information on Germany. It has about 83 million inhabitants. It's also, for those who know a little bit about the financial sector as well, it's the largest economy in Germany as well. And it's actually the 4th largest economy in the world. It has about, if you look at the total GDP of the European Union, it's about 21% of the European Union. What's also a huge trademark of Germany is the number of SMEs. And we're going to get to that a little bit later in the presentation. But in Germany, there are about 3.5 million companies that are considered to be an SME, which is almost 100%, just slightly below it at 99.5%. And looking also just how diverse Germany is when it comes to the type of companies and entities and who has, and the ownership structures rather, you can see that roughly 70,000 companies in Germany are owned by foreign entities. For a little bit more information, I think for you about Germany in general, is that Germany has always considered themselves to be a export world champion. There's actually a German term called Exportweltmeister, which they usually like to use. Something that, of course, has been a little bit more in the news, especially on the political side since Trump took office. And the discussion has come up about trade deficits that especially than the US has. Because Germany is actually on the other side, being a export world champion, and that's what we say here in the first bullet on the right side. That I think now they're in, of course, second place after China. China being the world's largest exporter of goods, but Germany is either second or third, I believe. And there was a short period of time, just a couple years back, actually, where they were the largest exporter of goods worldwide, larger than China even. Also, manufacturing sector. If you have a look at different sectors in Germany, what is big, what is profitable, and where people work. Of course, manufacturing sector is huge, but actually the largest one is, of course, the service sector. It's about 7% of the GDP in total, whilst the more known brands, I mean, the whole automotive industry, for instance, only, if you will, accounts for roughly 1/4 of a percentile, so of the percentage in total, so 24%. Of course, also what is good to know when it comes to Germany as a whole on the macro level is that looking at the unemployment rate, it has been fairly stable, and even during these Corona times, and actually the crises before that, going back to 2008, Germany has always come out and prevailed fairly well. You can see that, for instance, Volkswagen and other large companies, they have a system in Germany which is called Kurzarbeit, short-time work, and of course many countries have it nowadays, but Germany is really one of the forerunners when it comes to that, and something that has been used for many years. So the benefit, of course, is that you don't have to lay off people, and you keep people employed, and once the economy hits unstable ground again, you can ramp up the volumes quite significantly immediately. That's a little bit about the macro perspective and just macro data on Germany in general when it comes to the economy, but also looking a little bit in terms of the business landscape in Germany. We have, of course, some overarching trends. We say global trends. We have the digital trend, the sustainability actions and trends, and then, of course, the innovation ones. That is not special to Germany, but of course, something that you see throughout each and every industry in Germany, whether it is healthcare or manufacturing or service sectors, or even government work as well. Then you have a little bit more on the lower end here. You see the different trends that we listed them from left to right, from a little bit more macro trends to industry trends and customer trends. We have things such as the new competitive ecosystems. We also have regionalized and automated supply chains, meaning, of course, bringing everything a little bit closer together, not outsourcing too far away. Also, of course, building a conscious and a connected consumer. That goes, of course, with the digitization of the society. And we have these trends again in each and every sector. And even though I mentioned in the beginning a little bit that Germany might be a little bit behind when it comes to, for instance, the internet connections, if you will, they are ramping up quite a lot in the recent years. And we're getting to that one as well, that because and due to the whole COVID situation right now, especially the digitization is an aspect that is really going a lot quicker than we assumed here in Germany just last year, actually. And you could see that a lot of the issues that they had simply were policy issues, and of course have nothing to do with the product, services, or the technical issues not being aligned. It's usually just a policy issue, and that is very, very good to see. When we look a little bit more specifically, if we go down a little bit further, what is actually going on and interesting trend-wise in Germany, we have three very interesting topics that we'd like to highlight. And that is, of course, the demographic shift in Germany, meaning that we have a aging population in Germany. I think there were projections, as I mentioned before, it's 83 million right now, and if we hit the worst projection, if you will, I think Germany said that they might land in 2050-ish at around about 70 million inhabitants, so going to lose roughly 10 million. And that is simply, of course, because of the baby boomers and the generation before that. That, of course, means that there are huge challenges, but also opportunities for companies when we look at especially healthcare and digitization and services. That is something that will be needed and currently also is needed. And I'd say also that that is, of course, something that we're seeing more of due to the COVID situation right now. Then the energy transition, of course, the whole issue surrounding renewable energy and the usage of renewables is a huge topic in Germany. Germany was also one of the countries that, after what happened in Japan a couple of years back, or say more than just a couple of years back, with the nuclear facilities there, Angela Merkel, the chancellor, and the coalition decided to shut down the nuclear plants, which I think is going to end now in a couple of years, the last one. So of course it's a gradual one. But then also, of course, the goal is not to eliminate the nuclear power plants and then only use dirty energy instead, but to use renewables. So there's a lot of money when it comes to investing in new energy solutions, and especially, of course, renewables. Then the digital transformation, as I've mentioned a couple times already, and it will, of course, be a theme throughout the presentation. I'd say there is no part in the whole German economy where they're not investing in the transformation, the digital transformation. Whether it is the fiber backbone of the company, or it is simple digitization of restaurants and how when you book a table at a restaurant. There's a transformation going on throughout Germany, as throughout the whole world. But what makes Germany and for this presentation, what it makes it a little bit more interesting is, of course, that, as I mentioned, Germany is Europe's largest economy, 83 million inhabitants, and they are, or with regards to other countries, they have been very far behind. Meaning, from a company perspective and how you can serve potential customers in Germany and potential clients, there's still a lot to do. And there's a lot of possibilities to enter as well. Looking a little bit also just again at Germany as a country as a whole, you can see here there, for those who don't know at least, you can see here that there are 16 different states. They are relatively autonomous when it comes to the governing. If anyone, usually people aren't that familiar with how the German system works, but for some reason they know how the American system works. So the US has 50 different states and they're pretty autonomous as well. We usually say that it is similar to the American one, not as extreme as the American one, but still very independent when it comes to the governing these 16 states. But what we want to show on this slide here is, of course, where the economy is booming a little bit more, and where actually more the companies are in Germany. In general, of course, there are always exceptions on every map. But easily put, it follows what once an author put as the German banana, and we took that phrase. So it goes from Hamburg to the west and then down now south to Munich, pretty much following the former Western Germany and excluding the former eastern part of Germany. I would like to mention though that there are some huge differences, or rather some huge hubs starting up in the east as well. As you know, Berlin is really a city where a lot of startups are. Every huge German company has another HQ actually in Berlin, whether it is Siemens, the big auto companies, or the pharmaceuticals ones. Everyone is also in Berlin. That is, of course, also due to political reasons. But then you also have cities like Leipzig and others where there are huge manufacturing plants. Like Leipzig, for instance, just to take that example, they have the production site for Porsche in Leipzig. So I think it's in they're actually in Stuttgart or near Stuttgart, Porsche. But there they only produce the typical 911s, if you know the types of Porsches. And if you ever drive a SUV Porsche or anything else, then it's manufactured in Leipzig, for instance. Germany, as I mentioned at the beginning, is a country, of course, where most companies are SMEs, what the Germans call Mittelstand. It's something with a lot of pride. They say it with a lot of pride, because the Germans, they usually see their Mittelstand, their SMEs, as family companies, family-owned companies. That is actually also true. 95% of German SMEs, Mittelstand, is family-owned. And you can see that 99% of all companies in Germany, as I said before, it was 99.5, are Mittelstand companies. 60% of these then, or they employ, if you will, 60% of the total workforce. And looking at the turnover of all the companies, that then melts down to 38%. The huge difference, of course, is that these multinational huge companies like Volkswagen, actually all the automotive companies and a bunch of other companies, they make up, of course, a huge percentile when it comes to the turnover. But looking from definitely, if you look at the political side, who is going to be subsidies, who's going to get subsidies, who are we going to support, who's driving the economy on a larger scale, and then we go back and look a little bit in the mid part here, where are all the people employed? And that is, again, 60% of all people working in Germany work for a German SME, a Mittelstand, which again, 95% are family owned. So you understand probably that it's something that for the German government is very important when it comes to helping all the family-owned companies that usually not even are in big cities, but more in rural parts of Germany. Of course, also they're usually, the unique thing with these companies is that they have a high grade of specialization, innovation, and don't be surprised also if they say that 50% of their turnover is also made abroad. Again, going back to the statement I made before, saying that Germany is considered to be one of the huge exporting countries. That is not simply something that the larger corporations do, but to a large extent also what the German SMEs do as well. Again, a little bit more Germany. We're looking at the import-export with Sweden. For Sweden, like using a Swedish perspective, Germany is extremely important. Germany is the next largest, the second largest exporter, and Sweden imports most goods from Germany out of all countries that we do business with. Turning it around though, when looking at who Germany exports from, Sweden is 15th, and who they import from is Sweden is 20th. Meaning, if we just want to boil it down a little bit, looking at how important is the other country to and vice versa. Germany, of course, always sees Sweden as an important trading partner. That's not what we're trying to disregard, but there is a slight imbalance here. But we definitely see that Sweden is dependent on Germany, not just as a sole entity as such, of course, but as a leader in the European Union as a whole as well. We're now going to have a quick look at the impact of COVID-19 in Germany so far. I'm going to actually start off just with a little slide to give you some context to the situation as a whole. The GDP projections before COVID, you can see that Germany was one of the countries that had a relatively low projection with 0.7 increase. That is, of course, simply due to the fact that because Germany's industry has for the past couple of years been relatively high, and going from a very high standpoint, increasing that is, of course, a large thing to do, and that's why they usually tend to be a little bit lower than the other countries, and that is the reason for that. But what we do want to show here on this slide was more that looking at the post-COVID numbers, we could see that Germany is projected to recover a lot better, and they have done a lot better than the other countries. We highlighted here the minus 6.3%. Compare that to France, UK, and the Eurozone as a total. The figures are, of course, a lot better. And the reason for that are, of course, many different reasons, but we can touch upon a few of them on the coming slides. We have a little bit here. This is a lot to take in on this slide, so I know. So please apologize for maybe a little bit too many words used. But I'm not going to go through everything here. I just want to give you a little bit a feeling of where we stand right now when it comes to the COVID measurements in Germany and the recovery packages as well. I can say, well, in general, Germany, if you've heard anything about France, Spain, Italy, for instance, here in the European Union, who've had real lockdowns where people can't go out in certain cities, or where a lot of production has also been halted. That has actually never been the case in Germany. It has not gone as far, maybe if you will, as Sweden, where everything has been pretty much open, but of course restricted in a way as well. but speaking from my own experience here in Berlin and companies that we work with here, it has been pretty smooth, and production has always gone on. You can see that a little bit what we're trying to say on the right side with business operations status, with retail is open, manufacturing is open, all logistics is of course open, school is open as well. The only difference, I think, to the whole workforce in Germany is the working from home, something that was already implemented back in April, I believe it was April or March. So the German, if you will, business person who usually likes to have meetings in real life and never usually has meetings over the phone or via web meetings, now are very open actually towards having web meetings. And that is something that is, of course, also a benefit and necessity for us working with Swedish companies looking at specifically the German market. So it's been a curse living in my kitchen for this while, but also a blessing, if you will, because sometimes actually getting things done with potential customers and clients has been sometimes a little bit easier. If we move on a little bit here and then look a little bit at specifically the role of Germany during the whole recovery phase, we can see that, and also stated actually by a quote here on the left-hand side from the Munich Security Conference back in, during this year. As I said, Germany is the leader, at least the economic leader in the European Union, and also currently has the presidency of the Council of the European Union at the moment. We always look also within the European Union towards the leadership of Angela Merkel, and that is something that they actually fully embrace as well. And they have a couple of things, especially that they want to leverage and use and focus on what we're trying to show here when it comes to trends and transformations. Where we have the automotive sector, we have the healthcare, renewables, smart industry, and of course the digital services and e-commerce. It is even more important actually, and that has been stated by a lot of people and organizations, that Germany take an even bigger role, especially looking at the whole macro situation of the situation with the US and China, that the European Union has to stay strong together. And again, you can also say with the whole situation with the UK, Germany's role is just, and the importance and the responsibilities is increasing ever more, especially also when it comes to innovation technologies and climate issues, and especially climate issues is something which is very dear to the German government. And I mentioned again a little bit with the nuclear power plants and the renewable energies, and we're going to get to that a little bit more further down the presentation. But that is very, very much so something that that they're focusing on going forward. But of course, during the whole time, there are some issues that you have to look out for, and the German political landscape isn't as easy as one might hope or think sometimes. Of course, right, like I said, right now they have the presidency of the Council in Europe, and are leading the recovery as such as well. We have noticed, and I have noticed also just living here, that people to overwhelming numbers are embracing the measures by the government when it comes to the whole Recovery Act and all the restrictions and regulations. even though I know in Swedish media and somewhere else, when you get the news about Germany, sometimes you hear maybe that they're protesting somewhere in Germany, that you have to wear masks, or restrictions have been implemented there and here. However, I think just a recent study I saw on the news 1 or 2 weeks ago was that more than 70% of the German population think that the government is doing a good job when it comes to the corona measures and the recovery part. We have, of course, a little bit of an issue. Everyone loves and knows Angela Merkel. I say love simply, that is a little bit the general impression, because she is also, even if you're not if you're affiliated in the same party as Angela Merkel, people tend to like her simply because she's very rational. She is more conservative, but for a conservative, she is fairly liberal. So she is somewhere the solution in between, and she does that very well, according to many. But her tenureship as chancellor is ending. She stated that already last time that she will not run for office once this term ends, which means that she's then been in office for 16 years, and she's not going to seek another 4 years. So that's, of course, something that's being discussed in Germany, how the political landscape might change. And of course, like I mentioned before, the whole situation with the US, China, and Russia, and Germany being, again, the 4th largest economy in the world, driver in Europe. That is something that we will have to keep an eye on, see how Germany will develop. But of course, that impacts the landscape as a whole as well. The key trends in Germany a little bit, if we look at that also within the COVID measurements, and actually as a whole, we have we list here several trends that they want to leverage. We have the mobility one, of course, incentivize electric mobility and investing in charging infrastructure, as well as huge investments in battery. We also have digital services and e-commerce. That is something that I would say has had the most immediate benefit during the COVID time, of course. You wouldn't believe how quick companies and service sectors that said they could never do this digitally in Germany due to many different excuses, suddenly have huge amount of services that they provide online, or that are just processed quicker because they have different services that they use at the back office. Renewables, of course, something that has been extremely important for several years, but something that they're definitely ramping up. Smart industry and the whole digitization of manufacturing sites and supply chains, and AI being used there as well. AI being a sector where Germany has said that they want to be a forerunner as well, a front runner. And then healthcare, of course, kind of similar to what I said about e-commerce and digital services. Just within the last, within the last 6 months maybe, but then I want to say maybe 18 months, you've seen huge shifts simply because the reimbursement system has changed, where you can actually now, I know you can do in Germany and Sweden, but you can book meetings online with physicians now. You can have video calls with them. That's all reimbursed now, which it wasn't, backtracking the months I just mentioned. Also, using more digital services once at the facility of a physician has increased. So we see huge change and still huge things to come and possibilities in those sectors, which has just increased due to COVID. We're now going to talk a little bit about a general doing business in Germany, things to keep in mind, a little bit also recommendations from our side, things that we have, knowledge that we have gained during the years, things that we can pass on as well. Usually we say that there are five strategic levers that we recommend if you want to accelerate your growth in Germany. And you can see those on the left-hand side. The first one being embracing the economic importance of Germany. As I mentioned, largest economy in Europe, fourth largest in the world. There are 95% of all companies which are SMEs in Germany are family owned. So you can really see that it is a huge, important market in Germany, and you shouldn't take that lightly. And you should see the German market as not only crucial one, but just because its proximity to Sweden, don't think it will be an easy one either, because the same information that you're getting on how important and big the market is, every other country and every other startup is hearing as well. So that's why the competition is, of course, extremely tough in Germany. That's why also partnerships are really important in Germany, depending, of course, a little bit on the product or service that you provide. And the channels, how you sell that or get that to your potential customers and clients. But don't underestimate partnering up with people or companies that know the market, that know the regulations, that know potential clients, that have a network. Of course, also having a look at if you want to go a little bit quicker, acquire companies and expand through that way. I mean, it's joint ventures or acquisitions is a fairly regular way of doing business in Germany. Also, don't forget that Germany not only is a customer where you can sell things, but also where you can establish partnerships when it comes to R&D and innovation as well. There are huge R&D companies, there are huge R&D half governmentally owned entities, if you will, as well. And that is something that we also recommend to have a look at if that is of interest. And of course, making it in Germany, again, fourth largest economy in the world, huge multinationals in Germany. I mentioned before that many companies in Germany, of course, go abroad, but there are a bunch of companies that simply stay in Germany because the market is so big. If you're a smaller family-owned company, you don't need to go abroad. You will live a very comfortable life only selling in Germany. But building your relationship with companies in Germany and getting those key accounts with clients and different suppliers, you can leverage that when going to different countries, because they most likely will be in those countries as well. And getting to that a little bit later in the presentation, both Sweden is recognized as a trusting and good brand, if you will, worldwide, and so is Germany as well. So using the best of both worlds is, of course, a benefit. I'm going to speak a little bit also about the business climate surveys. It's a service that, or a survey rather, that we do here throughout. We do that in several different markets throughout the world, and it's a very straightforward survey where we contact Swedish companies abroad and ask them about the business climate in the country where they're currently active. And this one is what I'm showing you on this slide is focusing on the feedback that we got from Swedish companies right actually when the Corona pandemic hit. So there are some things that probably would have looked different if it weren't due to the COVID situation. When we asked these questions, most I think definitely would be on the left-hand side, the business climate, where it's put as neutral because I think it was considered to be high before. But what I want you to look at a little bit here from the survey, and we're going to have a look at that a little bit more on the coming slides, is of course the advantages of the German market. Of course, the market size, diverse industry, very good purchasing power and GDP. The challenges for companies going to Germany, as I mentioned, 16 different states, fairly autonomous. There might be differences on a regional level. It is not a low income country, so you have high labor costs, and somewhere because there are so many German companies and the economy is going so well, in certain industries, there is a certain bias for German solutions. That's also a feedback that we got, of course. Success factors for companies, though, in acting in Germany for Swedish companies. Sales competence, brand awareness, collaboration with customers being the number 3 as well. We're going to have a look actually at just the last part as well, what I just mentioned. What are the success factors? And you can see here by a fairly huge margin, the feedback was that sales competence, local sales competence, is the biggest factor for success. Meaning also, of course, that you have to know your market. It's not cold calling as you will, but knowing the market, knowing the networks, knowing the companies as well, but also on a more cultural level, knowing the culture as well, knowing how to approach Germans and speaking German as well. Brand awareness, I think, helps everywhere. Collaboration, as I mentioned before, collaboration, again, having partnerships. Cost is always an issue. And the last one I would mention just on this slide as well would be the staff development and training. So really taking care of your staff, and that of course goes into the whole sales competence area. Also, just from an interesting perspective, we had the question, of course, how do you benefit from being a Swedish company, and do you use that in your branding? And we just almost want to have a confirmation, because we always have this feeling, and this is usually the feedback that we get, that most companies see a very clear benefit of using the Swedish brand as a beneficial thing towards their customers, and they really profit from it. Sweden, of course, internationally stands for equality, responsibility, and you can use many different words, as mentioned in the quote on the right side. But since I've been here for the past 9 years, and before that studying in Germany, Sweden has a very, very good, sometimes I would say almost non-deserving good status, but hey, we take it and we use it. So we can't complain. And then also, when it comes to CSR and environmental issues, it has become more and more evident that even though maybe not on the same level as Sweden, but German companies see it as a very important thing, and that's also what Swedish companies have noticed, that the environmental aspects when dealing with German companies is increasing to a greater extent. A little bit here, just formalities in Germany for those of you who maybe haven't done business in Germany so far. Communication, preferably in German, still very, I would say, traditional, conservative. It depends a little bit, of course, on the industry. So a lot within startups is more familiar to you, laid back, I would say. It is more when you deal with the larger companies or the family-owned companies, where you maybe for the initial meetings will have to go back to a little bit more of the formalities, which the Germans are more accustomed to. You have simple things as saying Herr and Frau and things like that, and saying Sie, which is ni in Swedish. But usually for startups, there tend to be different rules. That's always good. Also, German negotiators, they love to negotiate. So I think the most important thing for every company going to Germany is simply what I, in these 4 little bullets, or if you will, that we have, you can summarize it as such that every German that you have a meeting with, you can pretty much, you can be very confident knowing that he or she knows as much as they simply can about your company and the service or product that you're going to be talking about. They have already pretty much done some kind of simple math, and they won't go in. And this is maybe the big difference maybe to how it works in countries more in the southern part of Europe. They will never have a meeting simply because to have a meeting, have a chit chat. They only have meetings with you if they see a win-win, or at least a win for them. And that win is already kind of clear to them. So simply a coffee won't do. Of course, a little bit back and forth in a friendly manner is something that they like to do, and talking about prices that further down the line and negotiating is their everyday life. So don't be surprised if they're very direct, because that's how they are. And again, speaking a little bit about German and the German language, a quote on the left-hand side of a former chancellor, but it's still true because Germany is such a big country, as I mentioned throughout the presentation. German is important. If you are in Germany, speak German. For startups, it's usually a little bit more relaxed, depending on who you deal with. But never underestimate, actually, even if it is okay to speak English, the difference it may make if you say a couple of things in German, or at least try to have a conversation in German with them as well. And here I would like to lift also, or mention, I mean, a scholarship that we preside over at Business Sweden. It's something that we do twice a year, and you can go and check it out if you're interested in German courses for people that already speak a very basic level of German. The course it has emphasis on business language and business German. So if you have a A1, A2 German, you can go on the link on the right-hand side and apply. And a little bit very short, I know time is pretty much over here, but so is the presentation as well. Our offering, again, for those who haven't heard it before, Business Sweden, we're half governmentally owned, half state-owned, half privately owned from Sweden. 47 offices in 42 countries. We work with market expansion with companies, large and small, again, sales acceleration, more concrete when it comes to actually selling products abroad in the different markets where you're active. Also assist with stakeholder management when it comes to looking at regulations and speaking to governments abroad on your behalf or together with you, but also giving very simple support when it comes to something that we call business incubation, looking at co-working spaces and registration of incorporations, and also employment services. If you need, for instance, a person abroad in a foreign market, we can assist with that as well. On a final note, and I'm going to end here, just want to lift that we are, of course, in a Swedish network here in Germany as well. And we call ourselves Team Sweden, or Team Schweden in German. And if you're interested more in the German market and the green transition and all the technology around it, and other, of course, topics as well, there will be a free of charge webinar that you can join on December 4th. It's called Swedish German Business Day. You can see the link below. We'll send that out later again. And again, free to join and listen in if you find that the German market is of relevance to you. And on an ending note, simply also, if you are interested in the German market, or as I mentioned before, Switzerland, Benelux countries as well, feel free to reach out to me, and I will be happy to help you personally or advise you to a colleague who might be more relevant for the specific product or service that you provide. So thank you very much then.
Thank you, Peter. What a wonderful presentation. Actually, you've talked about everything. I have a few questions myself. I mean, the ones that are watching, they can start leaving the questions on the chat and I will read them out loud. There was something that you said that was, I think that was quite good. You said that not because Sweden is so near, it will be easier to get into the German market, as we see.
Yeah.
And you also talked about the importance of partnerships.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know, are German corporates used to partner up with startups, both German startup and both abroad?
Yeah, definitely. Hold on, I just want to check. Can you still see my screen or? No,
no, we can't.
Okay, good. No, just wanted to see what I was broadcasting. No, good. Yes, German companies are very familiar working with other startups. It is definitely something that, as in many European countries and globally, I think also has gained a lot of traction these past couple of years. Larger corporations working with startups, having in-house incubators, also attending other meetings, events, and incubators to get in touch with startups. Also, of course, corporations with universities, hubs, science parks. So I think the landscape has changed in a positive way for startups, also in Germany. I think Germany, they had to go through a cultural a trip because they have a lot of SMEs, a lot of larger or a lot of smaller companies. So they're used to working with innovative small companies, but those companies haven't been classified as typical startups because they have been around for a long time. But usually there isn't a lot of difference when it comes to the operations and the type of innovation sometimes that they do. I think a lot of German companies have realized that and are really seeing the benefits now of collaborating.
I would ask you to turn on the camera if you can, because otherwise the people on YouTube will only see myself.
Sorry. Yes.
No problem. And another thing that we have had many German companies that have met Swedish startups through our matchmaking sessions that we hold. Why do you think that German corporates are so interested in meeting Swedish startups? What do they think that they can provide?
Yeah, I think it goes a lot back, it goes back to the brand awareness of the Swedish brand in general. I mentioned that a little bit in the presentation, that Sweden has a really good reputation when it comes to innovation and sustainability. And looking more on the technical side, let's just stay with the innovation part then. Whether it is within environmental technology or AI or simply software also. It has throughout the years always proven to be a country where innovation is very, very high, and that hasn't gone unnoticed in Germany. I think that is the simple reason.
Well, if someone else has a question, you can leave it there. I don't have so many questions. One thing also that I noticed, can you turn off the microphone a little bit?
Yeah.
One thing that I also noticed that all these emergency trends that you mentioned, which is within, health tech, renewables, e-mobility, smart industries, and e-commerce, actually are the ones that we are going to have on the upcoming matchmaking sessions, which is great. Why do you think? This matchmaking session is all about artificial intelligence, actually. And there are many companies from Sweden and from other countries that are going to meet startups from Germany within AI. How is the state of AI, if you can tell us something about the state of AI in Germany?
I know that from a macro perspective, the German government has said that they really want to be a leader within AI. There's always a difference between saying that you want to be a leader and then actually becoming a leader. I know that they are really the government. Then the government is giving a lot of money to the universities. They have these different type of institutes, R&D institutes in Germany. There are a couple known ones: Max Planck Institute, Fraunhofer, and so on. Simply with the aim and the goal that they should innovate as much as they can and give them as much leverage as possible. When it comes to the private corporations, that's of course always a little bit on them, how much they can do and want to do. But I know that at least looking at the larger multinationals, they have it on their agenda, I know from some companies, at least within the automotive sector, when it comes to using AI, that is something where they always look for corporations with, for instance, also startups, of course, because usually it's there that they get the inspiration together with, at least looking from the German perspective, also from these independent research institutions.
I have one final question, and if you can say, now we have startups from all over the world that are going to meet German companies, as well as corporates are going to meet online German startups. If you can summarize in one the biggest do's and the biggest don't do it in the meeting, which ones would you say?
I can start with the biggest don't. The biggest don't would simply be actually a very simple cultural thing. With Germans at least, don't go in thinking you know everything better than they do, because that's simply from a cultural perspective something where you will be stepping on a German toes, simply. But then when it comes to the do part, it is similar. It is go into the meetings and whenever reaching out to Germans, also before you even get the meeting, be very clear with what you want and as quick as you possibly can, show what you know, because they're only impressed by what you know and what you can do, and not by some fancy slides, if you will.
That was great. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your presentation and insight on everything. And to the rest, we see each other at 12:45. We have another session. This time it will be about doing business in Israel. So see you there. Bye-bye.